Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. It's good to be with you another day. Here we are at the beginning of the last week in the month of October. My goodness, the year 2020 is almost gone. And from what I hear from folks, it'll be good riddance. This has been a strange year. It's been a difficult year for many people because of the virus, not just being sick, but the the economy, the anxiety of what to do next. And I understand that it's hard in those moments to keep focused on what we really need to focus on. But I also hope that so far this year, you've been able to find God in new ways. You've been able to hear Him and look for Him and see His hands at work. And today, I'd like to take this week, this last week of October, and talk about what do we do from the book of Ephesians, chapters 4 and 5. Here, Paul gives us some really, really good advice and instructions on how to live. And that's really what all of this is about. It's how to live and how to live a life that is fulfilling, that brings joy and peace and wonder and amazement. Oh, it's not a textbook for how to make money. If that's your primary concern, well, I probably can't help you very much. I've never been very good at doing that. But I do think that all of us deep down inside are looking for something that lasts. And so that's what I want to talk about this week. What do you do? And I'll start with the very first verse of the book of Ephesians, chapter 4. It says, "Therefore, I, a prisoner of the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of your calling, for you have been called by God." Paul, who considers himself a prisoner to God, meaning he's under the authority of God, he he's trapped in a good way, not a bad one. He is bonded to the Lord in a very special way. And so are you and I. It says here uh, that we are called by God. It's God who's engineering all this stuff. It's God who's in charge. It's God who makes the difference. We're just servants of either Him or of somebody else. I mean, the bottom line is we are not ourselves, in spite of the fact that many think we are or they are. So, what does Paul say here? He says, live a life worthy of your calling. Now, what does that mean? Well, in times past, not to romanticize it and make it something it wasn't, but in times past, the privileged in society were expected to do good works for society. They were expected to be at the forefront of bringing about change, of helping the downtrodden. They called it their civic duty. And that notion of a civic duty goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks and their notion of civic responsibility. Now, I understand in today's world, in our current political climate, this notion of civic duty, mm, let's just say it's taken a nosedive. But doesn't mean it's gone away or doesn't mean it isn't important. So Paul says here, for you, because you were called. That's the key. God called you. God placed his hands upon you. Can you imagine just feeling like you're just special because God does? And you are special to him. You are the most important person in his life when he thinks of you at every moment, as well as everybody else's. I mean, God really, really, really wants us to fellowship with him on a regular basis. And one of the ways we demonstrate that fellowship is by living our lives that's worthy of the calling. Now, to put that in another phrase, God is saying to us, live your life as if I'm standing right beside you every moment of it. When you speak, I'm right at your shoulder. When you react, I'm right at your shoulder. When you reach down to lift up someone, I'm right at your shoulder. When you think of someone else and talk to God about it, I'm right there at your shoulder. And the truth of the matter is, he is right there at your shoulder. That's how close God is. There was a phrase back, I don't know, some time ago called WWJD. And it stood for, what would Jesus do? So when you're going through your life and something happens, stop a moment and say, what would Jesus do? And whatever he would do, you do. I remember years ago, there was a church that I served that had a basketball goal in the back. And they used it to reach out to the community. But one of the fellows who lived nearby complained all the time. He just didn't like it. He always had a new complaint, and each time the church tried to do what he was requesting, like restricting hours, not on certain days, so on and so forth, nothing ever worked. And finally, the church said, we'll just take it down. So he requested a meeting with the leadership, and he came in, and as they say, he was loaded for bear. And before he got to speaking, I said, now, wait a minute. I just want to tell you, we've already decided we're going to take the goal down. Now, we didn't do that because we wanted to. We did it because we ask ourselves, if Jesus were here and making this decision, what would he do? And we decided that a relationship with this neighbor was far more important than having the basketball goal. Now, we all thought it was a good plan that we have it. We all thought it was really valuable to our church and our community, but we just decided to do what we thought Jesus wanted us to do. When we think with compassion, when we think with love, when we think with others in mind, we can figure out what we should do. And that's how we live a life worthy of the calling that God has given us. You see, it comes down to this. Doesn't have anything to do with whether you're saved or not. Doesn't have anything to do with earning salvation. But it comes down to this. What would Jesus do right now that would make God proud? When you go through life, when things happen, ask yourself, what kind of a response would make God proud? That's how you live a life worthy of your calling. Well, thanks for listening. If you have a prayer concern or a need, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. I appreciate your time this morning. God bless you. I'll talk to you again.